broadcast now. Good morning, everybody, and good evening to Jens. Today we are going to present La Rasina. We are of course in Montalcino area, and La Rasina farm stands on the northeast side of Montalcino Hill with a total of 45 hectares. Founded in 70s as a farm, and slowly with the passage of time, the Mantengoli family has focused more on the wine business. There are 11 hectares planted with vineyards, which are located near the company headquarters, at height of about 350 meters above the sea level. A production that of La Rasina company is around 55,000 bottles. So it's really a small estate, a small production in the area. There is the production of Rosso di Montalcino, of course, Brunello di Montalcino, and since some years ago, also a new label called Pressante. Jens, could you please introduce better than me the estate La Rasina, and what's happening in the last years? No, what is changing?
Oh, no, it's an ancient place to grow Sangiovese, so changes are slow. I've been with La Rasina for over 23 years as their man for everything other than working in the cellar. I've worked already for the father, Vasco Mantengoli, today for Marco Mantengoli, who was at the helm of the estate for nearly 20 years. And the recent additions have been our, certification to organic, something we can't show on the Brunello label yet, because we have a long lead time in releases of Brunello, but we are already organic on the Rosso di Montalcino, on the IGT Sangiovese, on the younger vintage wines. But as of 2017, so next year's Brunello release will be also for us organic certified already. This is nothing else than an extension of what this fourth generation winemaking family has practiced. This is a small family operation with the instinct of agriculture. So they were always farming by the moon phases. They were farming with what is good for you. Organic means no use of mineral-based fertilizers that doesn't allow for insecticides or pesticides. That was something that we did not need certification for, but something that was basically done in previous generations already. However, we thought that it is important to make a statement on the back label, and that is the only statement that we are actually allowed that distinguishes us from big bottling companies, is to say, hey, we are farming our own grounds, we are exclusively bottling wine made from our grapes, and we do these with pride. The pride of the La Rasina estate is Sangiovese. They're not farming anything else. So we don't make a Sant'Antimo wine, we don't make any other, we don't even grow any white grapes. It is 100% Sangiovese estate. And that is really in the DNA of the Mantengoli family. This is what Marco feels he's been given and injected into his blood by his ancestors. And he's very proud taking that project one step further. He was within those succession of generations, the first one who was able to go to a school to study the art of winemaking. He has a degree of an enologist, where his ancestors were all farmers and they were farming by instinct. He has both. He has been giving by tradition the knowledge of how to farm the land as his ancestors did, but he also has the backup now of a schooling of a modern winemaking. So two components together give him the tools to make the decisions he needs in order to step up the game and get to excellence. And that is, the slow project over the years has been to really, because of the small size of the estate, to make excellent wines excel. And due to the location where we are, Rafael is at northeastern side. This is not a site where the sun is hitting hard, where we have these robust, big, fat tannins, but where we have more aromatic, precise components of Sangiovese. We have actually a liveliness, we have more precise wines, and we can excel in an art of winemaking that we think is more contemporary, because those wines that were the big hitters of the 90s and 2000s that were living by structure are over. But we can tell the story of Sangiovese for its varietal precision much better on these soils that are facing Torrenieri. I mean, we have very well-known neighbors. I mean, we are next door neighbors to Casanova di Neri, next door neighbors to San Filippo, to La Serena. This today, this part of Montalcino, this location is known as one of the top areas of Vineland, and we have all of them there. We don't have purchased a second location. We didn't need to. We are not in an area that is frequently hit by hail, so we felt it was safe there and grow in our own location. 4 years ago, Marco had the chance to purchase the land from a neighbor, so we added another 4 hectares to it. Slowly, what we can release wine on now is going to 14 hectares of vineyard land. And we are a small company in Montalcino, but we are not the tiniest. We are kind of like for Montalcino size in the mid-range. And our winemaking can be described as a perfect blend of modern and traditional, as Marco brings with himself the idea of cleanliness in the winery. A new building was erected in order to get rid of all these old things that we associate with Brettanomyces and various infections that may taint wine, but that allows him to work without chemicals in the winery, just by temperature control, natural fermentations, no addition of yeasts, to have Sangiovese show at its best. If we would speak with Marco, he would say still he is a winemaker in the cellar, but most of all he is a farmer. He's farming, he's growing Sangiovese. This is where the quality is achieved, and he believes in full maturity of Sangiovese. So there's no concern about high alcohol. There's no concern about excess, because he believes that his region allows him to produce wine at stability of full maturity. Full maturity is key to him, because that is the only point in maturation of grapes where you can allow in fermentation later on, with a natural stabilization, presence of oxygen, achieve this full expression that his ancestors are asking him to achieve. And I'm saying this because he feels devoted to his father. He called his Reserva wine after his father, his wine after his grandfather, because they enabled him to do what he's doing now. He does not think that everything in winemaking can be achieved in one generation. It is not a quick operation. It's not like making nails or buttons on a shirt. It is something that vineyard has to be planted, is growing, and you have to resort things out as you do things wrong. He believes that even if in a lucky situation like Montalcino, where you have a lot of possibility of hitting good vintages in a winemaker's life, they may be only like 10 grand opportunities to make an outstanding wine. We're lucky, or he feels lucky, that he just had the chance to present 2 vintages in a row, the 2015 and now the 2016 Brunello, which belong into this sort of lifetime event of a winemaker making outstanding wine. Things were, maybe you work much harder in 2014 or 2005, 2002 were much more challenging vintages. You have to really show what you're able to do. But in 15 and 16, it was an important event to his career.
Yes, thank you very much for the introduction. I think we all together listened everything you said about the story and about also your vision. Going more in the specific and tasting together these 2 wines today. So the Brunello di Montalcino 2016 what you can tell me about the fermentation and then about the aging mainly.
So we go here for a fermentation where we have a little bit of cryo maceration, because in an alcoholic solution we extract a lot of tannins, but in a cryo fermentation we have a watery solution, we extract a lot of aromatic components. So Marco was looking in the beginning to extract the precise aromatics of his location. We have lots of those, and he thinks that is a real asset and distinct quality of La Rasina. We then start without adding any yeast, natural fermentation in square stainless steel, allowing temperature to go up to 28, very short peaks of 30 degrees Celsius, bringing it back down to 26. This is the classic fermentation that La Rasina has been done for the last 12, 15 years. After that, fermentation completed, we are not looking for a huge extraction. They are shorter than normal. These wines go in a very oxygen-rich environment, a very short passage in Greek, because we believe, or Marco believes, that oxygen is a grand stabilizer of wine. Thereafter, they are transferred into the classic Montalcino botte. These are casks that we've seen of various sizes. They reach an age of maximum 12 years at La Rasina. So we have botte that are purchased 2 years ago, and then they go all the way up to 12 years. And they stay there per consortium regulation, a minimum of 4 months. We tend to have them in there for the regular Brunello for about 30 months, so a little bit longer than what is required. Then thereafter, the master blend is made in stainless steel. The wine is naturally stabilized and bottled. The difference with the Persante for us was a new step. In 2015, for the first time, we did a selection of grape wines that we considered producing superior quality, and we signaled them in the vineyard. They were not harvested for the regular Brunello. They were harvested a second round 3 days later, and they were fermented in upright wooden fermenters. So we purchased larger upright wooden fermenters that then they're a little bit more difficult in terms of temperature control, but they're allowed us for a little bit of a richer extraction and longer extraction compared to stainless steel. So with the Persante, we achieve a little bit more of a slower evolution, but I almost would call it a little bit more of a masculine tannin, something of a little bit darker, cooler, that we can achieve in combination with that aromatic correct. So the regular Brunello is a very floral, very precise, beautiful, deep, has these tannins that are ripe and stable. But on the Persante level, we add another component of depth to it that was important for us to document. And Persante then stays in that, after fermentation is finished, is removed from the upright fermenter, and also moved into the big Montalcino casks, where it finishes its minimum requirement of the 24, often again closer to 30 months of aging, depending on the vintage potential.
And actually, Jens, is more Slavonian oak, right? Your
Yes,
big
yes.
cask.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you taste already, guys, both the vintage, the label? Yeah, I'm tasting the 16, and actually there is lots of energy, like Jens said, about, now because you told me, maybe I was not able to understand alone, but this cryo maceration gives something more. It's like, it gets a little bit of deepness in the smell time by time. It's actually, you didn't you didn't have to worry about the oxidation because there is no problem, but you can feel it. It's already so harmonic, and it comes to you without to be in a small reduction, without to be really straight and thin. So actually, I think it's one of the most pleasure wine to drink right now. And we are talking a wine that, has some time in bottle, but it's like it will give the best in the next years, absolutely.
È perfetto. When we opened them, I opened
Congratulations.
the bottle 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago.
Congratulations.
Is like linear, fantastico. Very, very interesting. I didn't know the winery before. I never tasted one of your wines, guys.
Oh, okay.
Very good. Very, very good.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
The stability that Raffaella mentioned is really due to this effect between full maturity at the grape level and then exposing it to, or continue to exposing it to oxygen. Oxygen is a great stabilizer. So if you look upon it, it's not the enemy in winemaking, which may be a little bit more the French approach, classic French winemaking technique that is taught at school. But if you look upon a little bit different approach, I think there's a lot of things happening in the younger Italian winemakers world, and oxygen is no longer the enemy. That is a very important thing to note. We can use oxygen in our favor, and wines that are used to oxygen in the young stage of making, they actually appear like what you're experiencing right now in the glass. They're much stable in the glass. You can leave them out in the glass for a long time. They don't burn fast. They don't disappear. And this kind of like very even balanced evolution is what Marco Mantengoli, the winemaker, is aiming for. That's really his goal in the whole operation.
And then the oak, the big casks you use to age are like very, very.
Yeah, and
they are not like they are like there, but not too much. It's like interesting. And then usually pre-maturation is more oriented for white wines, no?
Yeah. Yes, it is. If you have perfect skins, you don't have to sit on them for a long time. We want just the high quality part of it. We don't want the hard part of the berry skin. Soft, perfect cans. If the material is ripe, you extract it fast. If you harvest underripe, you have to sit on the skins longer in order to extract that. And then also, however, the negative components and the tobacco, the green components. And here you can see particularly in the 15 and 16 vintage, there's nothing green about these wines. They are perfect in balance.
And Jens, talking a little bit more now on Persante. When did the born the label, and what you can say us more about it? So also the name, why the name?
Yeah, so Sante is the grandfather of Marco.
Okay.
So Per Sante is for Sante. It's a very simple, he's a very humble man. I'm sitting here in front of the video, not because I want to make myself great, but because Marco Mantengoli, the owner of the farm, he doesn't like to peer. He doesn't like to sit in front of a camera. He says, my actions speak. I feel uncomfortable speaking. He doesn't speak any English, but you all would understand his Italian perfectly. But even in Italian, if you see him at the consortium meetings, or if you see him, he's not a guy that socializes a lot or talks a lot. There are people like that, and but he's a big family man, and he, with his label, with his dedications on the label, he just wants to say thanks to my family to allow me to do what I can do now, and he also wants to say that they did it under much more dire circumstances. They were not leading a life, with the central heating in the house and electrical pumps and the level of cleanliness and possibility to put wine in a clean bottle and put a label on it. Their sufferings were much superior in order to survive than what he's doing right now. His Reserva label is called, dedicated to his father Vasco. In 2014, we declassified all of the Brunello to a special Rosso Montalcino, and we called it Ines, which was his grandmother. So there's in all these label names of the estate, you will find members of the family appear.
Great, thank you very much, Jens. Talking about what I can feel it in this wine, it seems another wine, really, exactly. From you know what we tasted 16, this is much more solid and concentrated in the nose. It reminds me a little bit of a black character with dark chocolate, some small berries, and then when going in your mouth, it's more sweet in the character, of course, for the tannins that they are really velvety, and it's so harmonic and balanced from the beginning, like the other one. They are actually two different essence of the same winery. Persante is a single vineyard.
No, it is same vineyard location than the regular Brunello. It is just grapevines that Marco signals out. He puts a little red ribbon around them that they should not be harvested during the regular Brunello harvest, and they are going to be harvested 3 days later, just because the perfection of the bunches. And then he uses those for the so that the difference is not location. The difference is just work approach.
How old are the plants?
Of the winery.
Please say it again.
Is that day by day stay on the vineyard and check the plant to be perfect?
Yeah.
Jens, how old are the plants?
So the oldest plants at La Rasina are now 45 years, and we make the reserver on them. So the reserver, which is a label that we did not issue this year, because the Reserva 15 for us it's an important wine, and we kind of tend in our planning to try to release the reserves later and later as possible, because we feel they take time to really express their potential. So this year there is a Reserva 15, but we haven't decided it was ready. So we still have to go for another round of tasting and then decide whether maybe by the end of the year or beginning of next year we will show it. That is a single vineyard of the oldest wines. That is the criteria for the Reserva is the old wine. The Brunello is several vineyards that are all located around the winery. So we are with the winery at the center, and we have on all four sides of it surrounded by La Rasina vineyards, and they're of different age. So the youngest ones, we have vineyards that were planted only 8 years. We only make an IGT, Sangiovese simple wine out of it. Then the vineyards up to 15 years we use for the Montalcino Rosso. Everything that is older than 15 years, with other words, saying from 15 years up to 40 years is Brunello. So it's various vineyards of various ages that go into the regular Brunello.
Great. Last question from my side, and then I will leave the words to our professional. I think you have all the system are spurred cordon, right?
Yes.
In the future, maybe you will need to make some new, let's say, to put more plants and new plants in your system. Are you the guys thinking also in the Guyot system?
Yeah, so there are obviously thoughts. There is, historically, there has been a consulting enologist by the name of Paolo Cacciogna on the estate. Today it is Marco Mantengoli doing, he's equipped with doing it himself. He's doing it himself, but we still have a very cordial relationship with Paolo. And with Paolo, we have a plan of doing some Guyot trained trellis.
Okay, thank you very much. So up to you now, guys. I think this is really one of the most exciting winery in Montalcino. It's small, it's a family estate. There is history behind. You can really feel the vibes when you taste wines. Much more interesting is when you go in the winery, and I should go soon. You will find Marco there, maybe on the tractor or maybe working in the vineyard. And this is something really important in Montalcino area, and I think in all Italy. So up to you if there are some reflections, something you want to ask to Jens.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi Jan.
Hi.
Pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to meet you. You were mentioning before that you're in sort of the Pianelli area of Montalcino. And typically tasting the wines from the region, you know, they're definitely leaner, but your wines are just very linear, very, very pure. The extraction is beautiful. Can you talk more about the composition? And then for us in New York, at least, who's the importer and price range, more or less?
Okay, importer is
Thank you.
Serendipity. It's a national importer out of Texas, but they have a 3 or 4 man team in New York now as well. Directly, they're going through USA Wine. I don't know whether you're familiar with Mattias Landini.
Ah, okay, see.
So Mattias Landini is the head sales or sales operation manager for Serendipity Imports out of Texas.
Oh, he has those, so maybe it tastes.
Yes, they were.
For how long?
It's
Since
not,
the beginning.
almost a year. We used to be with Massanois.
Yeah,
Ah, okay.
it makes sense.
So maybe it tasted. I didn't remember, but they're very, very good. Sorry, David. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was one thing that I wanted to ask.
I can't understand you, David.
Can you talk more about the
You other guys here, David? I don't hear
I
David.
think my connection is a little. Yeah, my connection is a little off.
He asked about the soil and exposition
That was
of
my
the
next
vineyard.
question too. About the
Yeah, so
soil.
what exposition is, you know, I call it the morning of Montalcino. So we get, which is an important factor in growing Sangiovese. Sangiovese is a late ripening variety. That means a fall moisture dew in the morning can be a detriment to quality. You can have gray rot setting in if you've got too much moisture in the fall of the vineyard, and that is a shame when you're almost there, close to harvest. The morning side of Montalcino, so the northeastern side, sees a lot of that morning sun and these updrifting winds from the Val d'Orcia. So we're sitting right above the Val d'Orcia. We have a lot of updrifting winds. They really make sure that on our side of Montalcino that we have in the fall very dry conditions. That allows for that very pristine aromatic condition on Sangiovese in our area. In terms of we are right also in front of the Montamiata, which is the protector of cold climate continental influence, and we still have an opening to the other side of the ocean. So in terms of the climate, this is very close to perfect in terms of what you need in order for Sangiovese. Our soils are mixed clay soils with good, volcanic mixture, because we're not too far from the Montamiata, the tallest elevation in Tuscany, and an extinct volcano of the past. So that shall never be forgotten. That although we are not Sicily, we still have volcanic origin in Tuscany, almost everywhere, and. So this is for Sangiovese. It is a home. It's not a variety that travels easy. I've worked in the past for companies that try to grow Sangiovese in Chile and Australia. I traveled with them. And I always was disappointed by what I still think is a worldly grand grape, but it doesn't do well just outside of its comfort zone, which is really restricted for me. To Montalcino, to areas of the Chianti Classico, to some more continental areas around Montepulciano, but it is not a grape variety that likes to leave these soil conditions and elevations of around between 300 and 600 meters happily. So that's where its home is, and that's, I think, why we're doing well with it.
Very good.
Beautiful. I think from our side here, I was familiar with those wine already, because the old day with James, they were already there in 12, 13. Yeah, drinking it blind, they were showing. But complimented. The 2016, both of them Brunellos are the perfect balance between modern and old, because he has the finesse of a modern wine. It's ready to drink right now, but then he has the grip of the
and the tannin of the Sangiovese with a good persistency. And il Rosso, it drinks like, it drinks very well, fresh, vibrant, you know, it's right there. And usually Rosso is your business card, you know, if the Rosso is already good, the Brunello can just be wow. And looking at the back of the bottle, I'm realizing also that the Rosso has the certification, so I guess is after 2016 that you guys,
That's correct.
you guys have been getting certified.
Yes, we were entered conversion, like legal conversion in 2014. As of 2017, everything is certified organic. That means the next vintage, Brunello's 2017, you will see that on the back label as well.
What's the production of Persante, roughly?
We're doing, depending on the vintage, in 15 and at 16, we did about 5,000 bottles.
Okay.
In lesser vintages, probably we will do less. We don't know whether we will do it in 17. We will see.
Good. I will inquire. We will inquire personally with Mattias Landini. We all know him from New York, from the old days with Massenois, about pricing and all the rest. But complimenti.
Yes, and prices have not changed. They're pretty much where, you know, what you know from the Massenois days.
I'm gonna text him and let you know if he answers right away.
I think, you know, we're looking at, I think we have an average retail of something like 48, 49 on Wine Searcher. You know, I don't have it right in front of me, but that's what I think where we are right now. And this hasn't changed for a while. What that translates into wholesale for you, I'm not 100% sure.
Well, we can find out because usually when they, in New York, by the state the liquor authority rule, they have to post prices somewhere where only the buyers can have access to. And also to make it easier, we all know Mattias, so we will inquire and find out.
Yes, ask him. I think they posted, the 2016 vintage is posted for April.
Okay.
It's shipping now, and so they will receive it in March, and they will put it. They have it already price posted, so they can start selling it in April.
And can you tell us a little bit, because this is jackpot, you know, 16, I think every winemaker, every collector, every buyer knows that 15 and 16, technically they won 2 vintage back to back, one better than the other. But we also all know that 17 was that like hot year. What was your perception, your strategy on 17? Was a Reserva made, Persante will be made, or what's happening?
Okay, so we feel we've got the stuff in the cellar.
All right.
We're very comfortable. But as I said earlier, it is easier to make great wine in grand vintages because the nature is just like helping us along. In those more difficult vintages, the vintner during the growing season has to find a better interpretation of what to do. He has to help the plant along. So in 17, the heat was a problem for who had soil deficiencies. So if you didn't have an active soil, if you didn't have good cover in the vineyards and your moisture was just evaporating, you had dire looking. I mean, I remember driving through Montalcino. They almost were losing the leaves already. You know, some vineyards, they were not looking well. And I must say, partially because we are on the eastern side, but partially also because of the regime and the experience, the 4th generation experience by Marco, that he is dedicated to what he's doing, farming, and not traveling, you know, around the world trying to be a fancy winemaker. That really helped in 17. We have fresher, we have more precise wines than what I would have expected from that vintage. We have the stuff in the cellar. We probably will not make a reserva, not because we think we could make it, but because we think the reputation of the vintage will kind of like make it hard afterwards. So our approach at La Rasina was always surprise, you know, over deliver. And so we rather use than what we already made as reserva. We're gonna blend it back into the regular Brunello and surprise everyone with what we can do with those 2 labels.
Okay, thank you very much, Jens. I think if there are more questions from our professional, we are a little bit out of time. We tasted these two beautiful Brunello, and then quickly also the Rosso di Montalcino 2018, which gave us an idea of what's going on in two different vintages in Montalcino. Nothing. I think La Rasina, to be honest, is really an interesting producer. Focus always on the precision of the purity of the fruit, the energy, but also, you know, the gentle extraction. Sometimes it's quite more normal in the last years, absolutely, but they used to make this kind of wine also some years ago. So it's really important, even more today, showing in their 2016 this essential character, this really drinkability. Thank you very much, Jens, for the introduction, and thank you very much to our professional to taste this wine. See you soon in Montalcino or in New York.
New York.
Grazie Raffaele.
New York.
Grazie a voi tutti.
Raffaele, feel free to introduce, to share his email, and I'm gonna collect more questions. We're gonna reach out to Mattias Landini, and we can connect more directly.
Absolutely. Beautiful. I will give a report to Jens, and of course I will do it.
Thank you
very much again, guys.
Bye guys, thank you.
Grazie.
Grazie mille.
Grazie a voi.
presto.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao, grazie.